There's been a lot of talk about the Chevron Doctrine and what it meant and why was it overturned and what that means for America going forward. Let's give a Reader's Digest version of what that really means and what's going on now. The Chevron Doctrine relates to a 1984 case involving Chevron, the oil company. The background is this. People in Congress know they're not experts when it comes to anything dealing with whatever they want to make a law for, being it health, oil, the nature, military, whatever. So they rely on government agencies who has the experts in those fields to help interpret whatever law they pass. For instance, Congress would say, hey, we want clean water. So they would write a law for clean water. But the government agency in charge of making sure that America has clean water would interpret that law to match the science on how to get clean water to get clean water. In 1977, Congress passed the Clean Air Act, in which the EPA would interpret how to make sure that our air stayed clean. And companies that do a lot of polluting, like Chevron, didn't like it. So they took it to court. They finally decided in 1984 in a 9-0 decision that Congress can defer and that the courts can defer to the federal agencies that had the legal experts to dictate what clean air and water was. And that became known as the Chevron Doctrine. Every time some company will go to a federal court or even the Supreme Court, the court would say, well, we're going to defer to the experts on clean air and water, and the company would lose for the most part. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds of the court cases now and all the other background and the history behind it, even though I can. But what I will say is, what the Supreme Court has done is, in the case that they just settled this past week, is that now the federal agencies that will be in charge of clean water, clean air, clean whatever, now they're no longer in charge of that, and that the federal courts now can dictate what's clean air, what's clean water, what's whatever. Now, conservatives, MAGA, Republican, whatever, they like this decision because what it says is the federal government is no longer in charge of what private companies do, and that now the courts can decide what it is, thinking that courts will be fair. But what liberals are saying is judges don't know. Their expertise is not environment. Their expertise is not water. Their expertise is not air. Their expertise is law. So how can they know what's good for the air and what's not? So how does this affect you? Well, if you've been paying attention, I've been talking about clean air and clean water for the last 2-3 minutes. But not only that, without the experts in a certain field, their ability to regulate how meat is packed, how eggs are made, how milk is pasteurized, all that can be affected because now the courts are involved and the actual agencies who has the experts are no longer allowed to do it. That stripping away of the power from those federal agencies and putting it in the hands of non-expert federal judges is what Project 2025 and what MAGA and the GOP really want to do. And because Trump was able to put those 3 justices on the Supreme Court, Project 2025 is starting right now. What do you think?